This is water getting into your fuel tank, and it happens more often than you think. Watch how fast it sinks and gets sucked straight into your engine's fuel system. That's where a water separator comes in, but what's actually inside of it? We'll show you what protects your engine and what could leave you stranded.
Have you ever had your outboard stutter, stall, or just not want to start? There's a good chance that you might have water inside your fuel system. Today we're going to dive into one of the most costly and common problems that us boaters face, which is water in your fuel or water contaminated fuel. I'm going to show you exactly what happens when water gets into your fuel system. We'll look at what it does to your engine and how it gets there in the first place, and what you can do to stop it before you get stranded. This is a real world demo, and you're going to see how fast it can happen to you when you're out in the water. So let's get started. What's up, guys? I'm with Brian from Wif-Pro. You guys have seen him on the channel before. Brian, what do we have here? This looks like a type of demo for a boat, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, I mean, what we're trying to do here, it's kind of a simple display, but what we're trying to do here is just sort of simulate what happens in a boat's fuel system, right? So we start with your fuel source, which would be a gas station most likely, where you're pumping fuel. And this is sort of the pump for that.
Okay.
It goes into a simulator. We did a small tank here. This is simulating your boat's fuel tank. This is a little 2-gallon tank, but...
So this is like your fill?
Right? That's coming into the tank, and then your pickup on the white tube there is your pickup that would naturally pick up the fuel from your boat tank, carry it up to your water filter separator, in this case a Racor, and then your motor. This simulates a motor pulling the fuel through the system, just like what would happen on your boat.
So like a fuel pump?
Absolutely. This would be the fuel pump, and ironically this fuel pump is equivalent of a 300 horsepower motor running at about 4,500 RPM. So it's kind of in the middle of the power range. It gives you a real good indication of what's happening and what's being pulled through a boat's fuel system. So what we've done here is we're just going to add fuel with this little pump over here. We'll prime and quiet down. So it's just pumping clean fuel into your boat tank. You'll notice there's no contaminants in the bottom of there. There's no water sunk to the bottom. It's very clean fuel.
Okay.
And if we come over here and press this button and simulate the motor starting, the motor will start pulling 15 gallons per hour. It's pulling from the boat fuel tank. It's bringing it through the filter here, and you can see that fuel is clean. Yep. And you can see the fuel at your motor, which is being pulled here, is also very clean fuel. So everything's in good shape. You're starting with clean fuel. You're filtering it, unnecessarily in this case, but it's still being filtered, and it's showing up at your motor with perfectly clean fuel. That's what you want.
Perfect. Okay. Now, how are we going to simulate water in the system? Because how do you get water in the system, first of all? So let's talk about that.
The number of ways are just, it's almost infinitesimal. We talk about, guys, the most recent one, for example, is in his boat, and I won't mention manufacturers, but they use a check valve in the venting of the fuel tank, and the check valve will, if it sticks open, any water that hits in the vent ends up in your fuel tank. But other ways are, you can have a leaky fill gasket when a fuel station has it in their tank and they pump it to you. You can get quite a bit of water in those situations. We've seen people get gallons of water in those cases. But there's dozens of different ways water gets into the fuel. In boats, they're in a wet environment. There's a lot of seals involved. There's vented systems. So all boat systems are open to the air. They're vented. So, and that creates some other issues. If you're
condensation, right?
You can create condensation in your tank, which can happen. There's a lot of different ways. It's a well-known issue. It's an age-old problem.
All right. So now we're going to simulate some water going into the system, right?
Sure. I think what's apropos here is that when we simulate the water, we're going to add hang on a second, we're going to add a measured amount of water.
Okay.
It's exactly 6 ounces of water, really close to it on that bottle. And the reason we're going to do that is I want to make sure that this Racor filter, which is a very good quality filter, especially for water separation, I want to make sure it's pulling all that water out and not allowing it to get downstream to the motor. So we'll be able to remeasure that when it comes out of the system. Perfect. So he'll add it in there, and we can see how the water interacts with fuel. You'll notice as it goes in, water is quite a bit heavier than fuel, so it goes straight to the bottom of your tank.
I had no idea that this goes straight to the bottom so fast. I thought that it would mix up first and then settle over time. So it's really that fast. I'm looking.
It's very heavy relative to fuel. So it sinks right to the bottom. And what you'll notice is we only put 6 ounces in there. But you'll notice when a boat moves around, it will slosh forward and backward.
Yep.
And the biggest point to that is, here's what happens. Your pickup's in the back of the tank. So your white tube is representing your pickup.
Yeah. So your bow's this way, your stern is this way,
That's
right?
Correct. So what's going to happen when you run the boat? Go ahead and simulate that, Todd. When you run the boat, the bow's going to come up.
Right.
And where's all the water going?
All straight to that pickup.
It's going straight to the back of the tank, to the lowest point of the tank, which is your pickup. And you can see the water in there quite clearly.
I mean, you could see it. It's a perfect little like wave back there. That's incredible.
And that's what water looks like in your tank when it infiltrates, no matter how you get it, whether you get it from a pump, whether you get it from a leaky seal.
Now, you hear about Rec 90. You hear about just regular fuel.
Yep.
How would you... Well, Rec 90 doesn't have the water or the ethanol in it.
Correct.
Right? It's ethanol free.
Right.
How does the ethanol get water into the system?
Right, so ethanol fuel is one of the reasons why you recommend Rec 90 without ethanol. Is ethanol is basically a it's biological material that's in the fuel. And because we have vented fuel systems in boats, it has access to air. And the bio in the ethanol fuels will actually wick water out of the air. So what happens is the water attaches to the biomaterials in the fuel, and once it has enough water attached to it, it will actually sink to the bottom of the fuel. And that's called phase separation. So you've heard of ethanol fuels where you get phase separation if you let them sit for too long or so on. The good part about our system with phase separation is the phase separation is effectively mostly water at the bottom. So our system's going to react to it like there's water in the system, and there is water in the system. It just happens to be attached to biomaterial.
Got it.
So it's, we don't recommend using anything but Rec 90, but if you're running fuel through your boat and you're not letting it sit, there's no problem running standard fuel through there. You just can't let it sit for time because you'll get the phase separation. But this will protect you against phase separation also.
So we got the water inside the fuel tank, right?
Yes. Yep.
So now what's next? What happens next?
Well, what I'd like to do is show you, we'll turn on the fuel pump at the motor. We'll start pulling fuel from the tank.
Okay.
And we'll pull it up through the water filter separator, and we'll show you how the water interacts there. You'll notice the water, as it enters the separator, the water will settle in the bottom of that clear bowl very quickly.
Yep.
So you ready?
Yeah. So you're going to hit the little button.
We're going to hit the button. We're pulling straight fuel right now.
Okay, let's go down here.
Straight fuel. Now we're going to run the boat. Put it up on plane.
That water's coming back. The boat's on plane.
The boat's on plane. The water's going to the back. You see the water coming in there?
You can see it rushing in there.
Very quickly.
Very, very quick.
And our alarm has sounded.
Okay.
Okay. If you look in the bottom of the tank, I'm going to keep pumping. I think we've pumped all of the water out already.
A little bit more, just a little bit.
Is there a little bit?
Yep.
Yep. And that can happen.
Got it.
Sloshing around. Okay, so all the water is out of your fuel tank and it's in here. Our alarm went off when about 4 ounces went in there, and you'll notice it did its job.
Yep, there's nothing in there.
The fuel is perfectly clean at your motor, which is great. So let's
The Racor
test.
is working.
Absolutely. It's working 100%.
The Racor is working.
It's doing what it's supposed to do. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to drain this out, remembering that we put in 6 ounces of water.
Got it.
We're going to open this up, let the vented drain work, and you'll see the line of gas coming up here in a second. You'll see the line of demarcation between the water and the gas.
Yeah, that water looks cloudy.
Yep, that's all water there.
Water.
You'll notice
look
at the
at
top,
it go.
that's fuel pushing it down because the fuel is heavier. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to over drain it a little bit here. I'm going to drain more than I'm going to drain a little bit of fuel. We're going to close that off, and you can see there's clean fuel in there now, right?
Yep.
When you look at the water bottle, you'll notice we had a little bit of water in the system previously, but you'll notice this line right here.
You can see the separation.
Correct. That's fuel on top and that's water below, and you'll notice it pulled out all 6 ounces of that water.
So that Racor does a really good job of pulling all of the water
100%
out of the system. That's awesome.
Absolutely, does a very good job, and hopefully your viewers can see that.
I think you can tell the difference.
Line, you can see the tan.
You
and the
definitely
water.
see it.
It pulled all the water out of the system. This is clean fuel now, and this is clean fuel getting to your engine.
Sweet. So how does this Racor system work? Because most people know it filters, but how does it filter? What is it that it does?
Yeah, let's go through that. I'll do a brief little demo with you here. I'll employ my brother's help. So what we'll do is we'll show you the media that it's called Aqua Block. And Racor developed this media, and it does an excellent job of allowing fuel to pass through the media on the inside of that filter, but not water.
So that's the stuff that's inside the filter,
Yep.
right? That metal filter has a material, and it's this.
This is it here, actually. It's called Aqua Block.
This looks like paper.
It does. It's chemically infused, and it's wrapped around this filter in an accordion fashion, so there's more surface area.
Right.
What we'll do is I'll show you how it works. It's kind of cool. So we'll take half of this, and we'll do a dripper. Hopefully this works well on
I
your
feel like
camera.
I'm in science project in school.
So what do you put in there?
Water.
Well,
Right. So he's
yeah,
getting
you
a
can do water.
dropper. dropper with some water.
That's water. He's going to cup it in there.
Okay.
You put a little bit more. And you'll notice what happens to the water. It pools in there.
Yeah, it's sitting in there.
Yep, it's sitting in there. It's not going through the filter. You don't see anything coming out of the bottom. You don't see any wetness.
No, it's not.
There's no water there, right?
Nope.
So that's water on that media. We'll not allow it to pass, so we'll dump that water. And we'll use the other side of this. I know this is a little bit crude, but it gives you an idea what happens. And he's going to, you can put a bunch if you can.
Yeah, hold it there so it'll fall back in there.
You can see it's not pulling it.
Nope, it's not pulling. It's actually starting to...
It's saturating,
Yeah,
and once it's saturated, if I turn this over, you'll see fuel on the other side. It's just spreading within the media.
Yeah, look at that.
But it's not pulling. Is it dripping yet?
Almost.
It will drip. It will drip at a certain point, but you notice it doesn't pull.
It doesn't pull.
It passes straight through the media.
Yeah, there it goes.
The problem is it's just spreading out in the media.
Yeah.
Once it's fully saturated, it will pass through the media, but it doesn't pool. It allows the fuel to pass through it freely. So that's the important part of the filter called aqua black. Now the limitation on the filter is this. It's a passive filtration. In other words, it will do it passively. So the water or the fuel comes in and passes near the outside of the filter and then gets sucked through the media that we just showed you, through the outlet here going to the motor. So it goes through the middle of the filter here and comes out. So it's passing through the media from the outside to the inner part of the filter. And the limitation on the membrane is once this has enough water in it, the suction from your fuel pump at your engine, if you put enough water in here, it will pull the water through the membrane. So it passively blocks the water, but if you let too much water accumulate in here, it will not stop the water. So it will pass through the membrane with suction on the downline.
Even if it's a brand new filter, because
Absolutely.
it's got a limitation.
It has a limitation where it passively blocks water, but if you pull water through with your fuel pump on your engine and this is full of water or mostly full of water, it will pull it right through the membrane.
What now? My next question is, how much water is it that goes in here when that happens? What's the amount?
It's a good question. I mean, the total volume of these filters is somewhere around 14 or 15 ounces. So it will hold fluid of about 14. If you have, it would probably depend on the suction side. In other words, how big is the motor pulling the fuel?
Okay.
So a 600 could pull 50 gallons through it. That's going to have a large suction on it. A 150 is going to pull a lot less than that. So on a 600, you may not have to fill it all the way up with the water. It might start pulling water here.
Wow.
Because you have so much suction coming through that filter. If you're running it wide open, it's pulling 50 gallons of fuel per hour through that filter. It's a lot of fuel.
Yeah, it's a lot of fuel.
It's almost a gallon a minute. Right?
And how much is that? An ounce?
It's about an ounce. That's more than an ounce a second. But
Yeah.
the average outboard, like a 300 or 350 running, pulls an ounce a second of
Wow.
fluid.
So that's really quick.
14, 15 seconds to fill this up.
And when you're driving your boat, you're not seeing this.
No.
You won't see this, right? So one of the things that people have is these clear bowls on their systems.
Yep.
But there's also other ones that you have here, like the Yamaha one, right?
Correct. So a Yamaha is a standard filter. It's a
Yeah,
good
you
filter.
can't even see if there's fuel in there though.
And if you knew there was water in there, if you had a way of knowing, what do you do? How do you deal with it, right?
Yeah.
The clear bowls have a huge advantage. You can see our indicators show you when there's water. They give you a visual confirmation, but you can also do a nice clean vented drain there.
Yep.
You have no ability to drain this, and we've heard too many stories where guys suspect water, they're spinning these off and dumping them in the water. It's not good.
Yeah, it's not good.
It's never an easy thing.
And it's expensive.
It's expensive, and it's not good for the environment when they're doing that stuff. And the clear bowls allow for clean handling of contaminants and fuel coming out of that filter.
Now I noticed that this is a Parker Racor filter. There's
Yes.
other types of filters. What are the other types of filters that are out there? Which are the ones we should avoid? Which are the ones that we should use?
Our system is designed strictly for Parker Racor gas spin-on series, 60 and 90 gallons, which utilizes this clear bowl made by Parker Racor. One thing you have to be careful of, these are high quality filters. You can go in the market and find something like this.
I mean, that looks just like a Parker Racor. It looks almost identical.
100%. This is a real Racor on the left-hand side here.
Yeah, you can't even tell the difference.
And this is a knockoff. So you'll notice on the knockoff, it never says Parker Racor like it does on the filter in my left hand here. And the other thing you'll notice, if you ever have a clear bowl that has these types of ears, it's a knockoff filter. A Racor filter looks like that on the drain. So the bowls look quite similar.
What about the insides? What's the difference in the inside? Is it a different material than that aqua block?
I can't attest to what every aftermarket filter that's copying Racor is using, so I don't know. But for me, the cost of these outboard motors, I wouldn't risk 15 or 20 bucks difference on my motor. So
very, very true.
You know, some of them might be buying aqua block. I don't know, but I wouldn't risk it. I know this filter here, a Parker Racor filter, is using the proper media. It's a quality filter.
Yep.
They're the industry leader, have been for decades.
All right, so we're gonna simulate water and fuel. We're gonna how fast the water actually travels in the fuel system.
Yep.
So
we're gonna add 6 ounces. Watch it go to the bottom, go back to the pickup. How quickly it shows up and gets separated in your filter and sets off the alarm.
All right, Brian. So start that engine, right? We're gonna start pulling.
It's pulling fuel now.
The bow's up.
Todd's gonna add 6 ounces of water.
He's adding 6 ounces. Look at that water go in there.
Okay. It's already coming into your filter up here.
Yeah.
You can see the water accumulating. You can see the float moving and the sensor went off. I will stop pumping. Make that a little bit so it's not so loud.
I think that was like 6 seconds.
Was it?
Yeah, like
I think
6
it was
seconds.
Less than 10 for sure.
Yeah, less than 10 for sure.
And we didn't even get all the water yet.
Yeah, and there's still some more water in
I
there.
stopped pumping.
So the alarm went off, and that's your WIFPRO system.
Yeah.
And we didn't get any fuel in here, any water in the.
No, fuel looks great at your engine, which tells you the water separator is doing its job. We could reset the system here. I'll show you a quick reset. You can see you can see its water coming in. Vented drain is doing its job, letting air in so the fuel can come out.
There it goes. And you can see you put in 6 ounces, right?
At least. Yeah, it was a little more. You can see fuel and water in there, a little separation.
Mm-hmm.
You can see the fuel's on top, the yellow.
So it took out exactly what you put in.
Yep.
Look at that. Sweet. How can we prevent this? Because I know that warranties on motors don't cover water and fuel.
Correct.
So Suzuki, Yamaha, Honda, Mercury, they have systems in place where they know water has come into the fuel system, and you're not covered.
No, absolutely
right?
not.
So you can check this all you want before you go out. Hey, look, the bowl's clean, everything's fine. But the moment you get on plane, that water goes to the back of the tank, and you pick it up.
That's correct.
You're driving the bowl. You're not looking at this thing.
That's correct.
So you're gonna suck that up.
And they have sensors they put on their motors that try and pick that up consistently, and they work fairly well at the motor to let them know they're really protecting their motor and their warranty process.
Right.
You know.
Okay. So then, how can we protect ourselves from that happening to us? You know, motors are expensive. So I know you guys have your system, the WIFPRO system.
Yep.
How does that work in this scenario of water getting into the fuel? Like, run us through how that works.
Yeah. So what our system will do is pick up. The float will come up and interact with the sensors.
Okay.
And then it will alert you at your control box and on your chart plotter via NMEA. It will let you know where the location is happening, where the problem is. It will instruct you to power down, reduce power, and maintain vessel operation, and go back, use our drain bottle here, and remove the water from the system to reset the bowl.
So let's go ahead and drain that out.
Yep.
So you got the little.
There's not a whole lot in there, but
Yeah.
you would open it up. Normally that, like before it would reset the float, you would remove the water from the system, you'd close it out. It's a nice clean one-handed drain. If your filter's in a difficult to reach location, you can reach in there with one hand and drain it.
Sweet. So as soon as that float reaches up here, before the system gets saturated with water, that alarm's going off, and I'm turning my motor off, and I'm saving a big headache.
Yep. Huge headache, costs money, depending on how bad the infiltration is.
So it's an awesome demonstration that he built this thing for this, right?
Yeah, I mean, and we want to be able to show live infiltration where it's, kind of shows you what's happening in the tank. So yeah, but we wanted to give your viewers a nice, simple view of what's happening on things within their boat they can't really see readily.
Yeah, I had no idea that the filter looked like that. I didn't know how it actually worked. You kind of just take that for granted that it just works, and now you understand when you see it. I understand the system a lot better now. So where can we find you?
WIFPRO.com.
Oh, they're going to be at the boat show this weekend?
I think so. Yeah, we'll have a display with Reliable Marine at the show.
Nice. So
Yep.
Reliable Marine, they're going to be with Reliable, where you can actually get their system put on your repower as well. So thank you very much, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you.